Today we are trying Bravetart from Stella Parks, her chopped chocolate chip cookies that I can't find the right page to. Chopped chocolate chip cookies. I love this recipe, but I haven't been able to master it yet, so today I thought we could document the process and we could all try to make this cookie recipe together. Bravetart is one of my most used cookbooks in our kitchen. It was a Christmas gift to me many years ago for my brother, and I have loved it ever since. Stella Parks focuses on classic American desserts and creating recipes that take the flavor and quality to the next level, while still paying respect to their origins with history lessons on each page. Although Ruth Wakefield with Toll House Cookies was thought to have invented the chocolate chip cookie, according to Stella, chopped chocolate was actually used well before that to make cookies, and that's what we will be doing today, an old-fashioned chocolate chip cookie. I start the recipe by browning the butter, which is not necessary but the best way to mix it up. Because browning the butter loses a lot of its water content, she recommends upping the butter from the original recipe from 8 ounces to 10 ounces and adding another egg when appropriate. Stella recommends using cheaper American butter as opposed to European butter so that the lower fat, higher water content is better suited for this recipe. In a saucepan, I melted the butter over medium-low heat. I increased to medium and stirred with a spatula constantly until the butter was golden yellow and stopped hissing and popping. Okay, so my butter was a little bit more than golden yellow, more like a deep, dark gold, but it still smelled of beautiful butterscotch and didn't smell burnt, so instead of scratching the whole thing, I went ahead and carried on. Sometimes that happens when you get distracted with filming. I transferred my butter to a stand mixer without forgetting any of the solid bits and cooled it until it was semi-solid and opaque. Sometimes I can get very impatient with this, so I like to also use an ice bath to help move the process along. I make sure to scratch the sides of the bowl down with a spatula to make sure the butter stays creamy. Next, I'm chopping 2 chocolate bars by Choco Love, a brand that Stella has recommended for chopping into chunks for cookies. I chose a blend of 65% and 77% cacao. Chopping them all up in pieces allows for variation of size chips as well as shards of chocolate that add to overall flavor throughout the cookie. I set aside a handful of chips for later and placed the remainder in a medium bowl. I sifted the flour on top and tossed it to combine. That way all of my chocolate bits were covered in flour. To the stand mixer, I attached my bowl of softened brown butter and then added brown sugar, white sugar, baking soda, baking powder, vanilla, and nutmeg. This was my first time grinding nutmeg fresh, and I gotta say the smell was amazing. I definitely will be using more of this in the future. I used my paddle attachment to mix on low and get everything incorporated before increasing to medium and beating it until it was light and fluffy. This can take about 5 minutes. I then added the first egg and then the second because I did use brown butter. And then reduced the machine to low to add the flour and chocolate mixture until everything came together into a stiff dough. If there's any leftover bits on the side, I like to use the spatula and work those in by hand instead, so that way I'm not overworking my dough. Now we're ready to assemble. I am using a baking sheet with parchment paper. For large cookies, I portioned about 2 tablespoons of dough per serving. I like to use a large ice cream scooper with the trigger to help create even dough balls and place them 2 inches apart from each other. For even more chocolate, I take my reserved pieces and add them to the top, as well as a pinch of kosher salt. The cookies get baked at 350 degrees Fahrenheit on the medium rack for about 15 minutes. For our preferred crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside texture, we're looking for cookies to be puffed and pale golden around the edges but steamy in the middle. For crunchy cookies all the way through, bake for 3 to 5 minutes longer. The cookies then get placed on a cooling rack for 5 minutes to set. Any leftover dough can be frozen for up to 6 months. I like to individually portion out the dough balls ahead of time, so if Shun and I feel like cookies for dessert, I can just take out a couple. The cookies turned out great, and this recipe continues to be one of my favorites. If you are looking for a way to make really great chocolate chip cookies as well as recipes of other classic American desserts, then I highly recommend Bravetart. It'll be a cookbook that I will reference over and over again. Thank you so much for watching.